At least my tea bar will definitely be different next time. Hello strangers, I'm Ravenna and this is my wrap up for the ContemporaryAthon. I mostly didn't stick to my TBR. I did read some of my TBR pretty late into the game, but I guess it still counts. I did manage to do all the challenges with 5 books. One of them feels like a tiny bit of a cheat, but it still counts because of when I finished it. So the first book that I finished for the ContemporaryAthon was Just Mercy, adapted for young adults by Bryan Stevenson. The reason I read the adapted for YA is because my library had the audiobook, and I was like thinking, well, that's a weird choice for my library, especially because they mostly cater to adults and like never have any YA. So it was quite weird they had this hard-hitting non-fiction book for young adults. But it turns out there is no audiobook version of the adult version. Made perfect sense for why my library would buy it then. But it's a bit annoying that there is no audiobook of the adult original version. Like, the YA version is fine, but apparently there's some details are taken out of it, and as a adult slash, yeah, there's like no time where I would have listened to the young adult version by choice, other than my library had it. So like I said, this is a non-fiction and it's read by the author, and if you recognise it, it's because it was recently turned into a film. I had seen the film advertised, but I didn't really know what it was. I hadn't, like, when I say I saw the film advertised, I saw that my cinema had it, but I hadn't heard anything about it. So I didn't know it was based on a true case and this lawyer. The book is really interesting and it goes into a lot of details about this one particular case, but also Stevenson also has done a lot of work like with young convicted people, and by I say young convicted people I mean children who have been convicted for life for crimes they did when they were minors. And some of the cases are like truly horrific, of people who have been convicted for life. It doesn't make any sense why they would be convicted to life except for a corrupt system. I already knew the American prison system was messed up and severely corrupt, but it was still interesting. Seems bad because these are people's real lives, but it was still very informative and good to listen to the audiobook going into details about how these people are affected by this injustice. Yet the US prison system is messed up, and majorly so towards black people. So I do recommend the book in general, but if I was to read it physically I would obviously go for the adult version, and I would like an audiobook version that is the adult version. The audiobook is read by the author and is really good, so I do recommend it on that basis, but I guess you gotta weigh the pros and cons of it not being the original version of the book. So in a way, it is an abridged version, which I'm not a fan of. The next book is a book I would definitely not recommend, and it's The Language of Cherries by Jen Mary Hawkins. I have questions about the rep in this book. It doesn't feel authentic to me. I haven't been able to find concrete research whether I'm just talking nonsense, and I haven't been able to find any on Own Voices reviews yet, because this is a very newly published book. I had an e-arc of it, so I haven't been able to find any Own Voices rep for the Cuban side or the Icelandic side of this book. This book is about a girl who's of Cuban descent and is very close to her Cuban grandma, so that's very much part of her identity, I guess. The way language is used in this book is bad. It doesn't really feel authentic to me. The Icelandic stuff was weird as well. This has got 2 point of view characters, like the Cuban girl and this Icelandic slash Scottish boy. He's half Scottish. We'll get into it. And he speaks in verse, right? But also doesn't. Like, he has this journal that feels very fake. It's like very much told as things are happening to him, not as in the past. But it's meant to be his journal. So maybe he's just writing these non-verses as we go. Like, he writes in verse, but it doesn't really feel like verse, like, because it just feels like he's randomly spacing his lines more than anything. In terms of the Scottish rep, I'm just gonna tell you, it is bad. Distractingly bad. So they have this character who I guess must be like in her late 40s, but she speaks like she's 180. I keep adding ages to her. Let's just say she speaks like she's 200. It doesn't make any sense, and the way she speaks is really annoying, and I don't believe any young person has ever talked this way. Like, she speaks with ye and yas. Yeah, like, yeah, Scottish people talk that way. The thing that really annoyed me the most was that she used lad and lass all the time, and like, there's literally a paragraph where she says every sentence has lass in it, like, you gotta cheer yourself up, lass. You know, lass, this lad, he doesn't know what he's missing on. That kind of nonsense. This book also has Gaelic in it. It also creates Gaelic and Welsh as being the same thing at one point, which is fun. This book's meant to have a druid in it. A practicing druid. I think there's a really funny line in this that, like, the boy goes up in Iceland and there's a line in it said that it was really important to his dad that he knew English and Icelandic. But I don't get, why would it be really important to his dad that he knew both languages, other than English is a practical language to have nowadays? Other than that, why would it be super important? I'm just going to put this out to you guys. I'm going to tell you, as a Scottish person, I have no sentimental value towards English. Yes, it's the language I speak, and yes, it's a practical language to speak. Otherwise, there's no sentimentality do I feel towards English. I mean, it's not the language of my people. It's not Scots, which obviously is a dialect. There is a debate whether it should be its own language or not, but it's currently counted as a dialect. It's not Scots and it's not Gaelic. Gaelic does appear in this, but in like small parts. I know some Gaelic. Like, I recognise some words and I'm like, I didn't know that's what that meant. But I also don't know enough Gaelic to challenge it. I'm actually only one generation away from a Gaelic speaker, but like that wasn't passed down to my generation, I don't think, or even to my parents' generation at all. Which is sad, but it's what happens sometimes. There's a move for Gaelic to come back, and I'm for it. But for all clarity, I live in like the borders of Scotland where like people say, well, there won't be any Gaelic speakers here, and I'm like, no, my ancestors definitely spoke Gaelic. Like, I definitely, like I said, I'm only one generation away from it. I'm gonna bring it back. I do look out for like good Scottish rep, and there is Scottish books out there and I can read them. In terms of Scottishness and like mass cultures, it's often badly done. They're always redhead. They always have red hair, even when it makes no sense. Like, if you want to do like realistic Scottish rep, I'm what Scottish people look like typically. We're very white. We have had more immigration recently, so obviously there are people of colour who do live in Scotland, so not everyone in Scotland looks like this. But if we're talking about ethically speaking, this is what an ethically Scottish person looks like. But it doesn't really matter. Scotland is one of the few countries where most people have blue eyes, most people have brown hair. This is what we look like. Terribly pale. I remember once somebody described looking exactly like me and they said, I know, it's such a weird combination. I'm like, that's what most of Scotland looks like. What are you on about? So like, when I read books written by Americans, that will guarantee that the Scottish person has red hair. And it's just, it's one of those markers that I know they haven't really did any research about us, and it gets annoying when that's what is repeated over and over and over and over again, when it's not true. Like, if we really did have red hair and I was like the minority in terms of this, then I would be ridiculous to expect everyone to have brown hair who's Scottish when they appear in media. But it's the opposite of what happens. They always have red hair. Like, it's not true. But I will say this, if that boy had, like, the boy has blonde hair, right, and his mom had red hair, he should probably be a redhead because of how genes work. So I know in this bad Scottish rep, it's probably not really that hurtful of a thing. It's usually just people who are writing about something they have no information about. The thing about having a redhead Scottish person appear, it kind of tells me that they've did no research at all. Like, redheads in Scotland ain't common. Like, they're not as common as people seem to think of. To be honest, most of the redheads I've known have been from England. I think it's a conspiracy, honestly. We do have redheads. I'm exaggerating. Kind of. But, like, it's not, they're really rare, guys. Like, not everyone from Scotland has red hair. I'll put it this way. I currently know of no Scottish booktubers that have red hair. So, that's what I'm gonna just say. That's how uncommon they are. So, it's basically just a marker. If this character has red hair, then the rep's probably not gonna be good. I don't know, see the thing about being Scottish, like, rep doesn't tend to be, I guess, that hurtful unless it's like from British TV. But like, British TV rep can be bad. I'm just gonna say this. It's weird growing up and the only time a Scottish person appears, they're the villain. They're the villain and they have red hair. So like, it's not hurtful rep, but like I said, I do have questions about the rep in this book. So I would like to see On Voices reviews of this book. My main opinion from a Scottish point of view when it comes to the Scottish character, bad. When it comes to the Gaelic stuff, kind of bad. Like, they're very sentimental about this word, and it turns out the word is from Welsh, and I'm like, Welsh and Gaelic are not the same thing. Yes, we're both Celtic, but not the same. I guess it's not hurtful, it's mostly just really annoying. So if you're Scottish, don't read this book, you'll mostly just be annoyed. It's a very generic story anyway, about a girl like having a dysfunctional family. It does have underage sex and drug use in it, however you feel about that. Actually, it's probably not underage. I don't know what the age of consent is in Iceland. Doesn't make me comfortable about it. I mean, when the characters are under 18, I don't want to know about it now as an adult. As a kid, I really did. But as an adult, I feel weird about it. But I don't know, I'm actually convicted about portraying sex in YA because I think you should teach teenagers about healthy sexual relationships with all that entails, like, you know, contraception and safety when having relations with each other, but also the idea that sex should always be bad is something that I would like to stop teaching young people. Like, I think like kids are taught that it should be, and by the way, like, sex is, it's okay if it's bad the first time, but that there's the things you're doing wrong and it's portrayed like it should hurt the first time. Like, it's normal for it to hurt because maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing, but like, there's ways to make it so it doesn't hurt the first time. I do want kids to be taught this, but I don't know, I don't think YA that I read that does have that, it's not great. That was several tangents. Next I read When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. I listened to the audiobook, so I should know how everything is pronounced. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Very popular in booktube once upon a time. And I guess I get why. Like, it's a diverse read and it shows this part of this culture. I don't know, I liked it. It's semi-enemies to lovers, which I kind of like. I suppose it's more like miscommunication to lovers, but it's still fun. It's a good YA book. I guess I'm just weird because like, I went from a book where I had a lot to say about it to a book I don't have much to say about it, or feel like it's not really my place to talk about it because not my culture. I thought it was a good story. Then I finished reading Everything All at Once by Katina Leno. This was part of my TBR for a book that is beloved by the book community, and this came from Chelsea Doing, who's one of the hosts of ContemporaryAThon. I bought this book because she always talks about loving Katina Leno so much, so she made me buy this book and now she made me read it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, so thanks, Chelsea. This is a really good book. I will definitely read more of Katina Leno. This is kind of a diverse book, but not so much the main character. Like, her best friend is gay and has a girlfriend, which is lovely. I love her. The main character does suffer from anxiety and panic attacks, so hashtag relatable, but also something to think about because I know some people don't like reading about other people having panic attacks. I don't think it goes into much detail, but she does have one in this book. I think it was kind of funny though, because like, I read the last page of this book when I was like reading it and being kind of impatient about what was gonna happen. I thought this was just a straight contemporary, and then as I was reading it I realised, oh, there's something up. So I was like kind of peeking, and like I read the last line and it didn't hit me, but then I read the last line after I had read the whole book, and then I just started crying. This is a book about grief. The main character's aunt dies before the start of this book, and it's about her dealing with her death and her feelings towards death throughout this whole book. So I cried a lot during this book. I do feel I'm just in that sort of mood where anything could make me cry, but I felt like this did deserve my tears, hence the 5 stars. So it was the last day of the readathon and I realised I had basically, with the books I had read, I realised I had marked off all the challenges except for one, which was to read a book with green on the cover. So I went to my TBR and read The Love and Lies of Kishana Ali by Sabina. I gave this out 5 out of 5 stars. I cried through a lot of this as well. I know some people do have issues with this book, and I understand those issues. This is a book that deals with a girl who's American but her parents are Bangladeshi. That's the culture she's grown up with, and it deals with like split identity, like her feelings of being American and Bangladesh and not belonging to either of those worlds. I would say this is a hard-hitting YA contemporary. Like, I didn't realise how hard-hitting this is, but like a lot of stuff in this. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I know there is criticism towards this book and I do get it. I don't know what my feelings are towards this, because some people have argued that it does have a trope I really hate. I don't know if it counts as that trope because I don't want to spoil the book, but it has kind of inspired me to maybe do like a proper discussion about this trope, and I think other people have already made similar discussions about it. I understand the criticism, so you might want to look up reviews about this. It does involve a gay main character, so it does definitely cover a diverse contemporary. I think this covers most of the challenges for me as alone. Like, it's green, it's from a new to me author, it's from my backlist, it's diverse because it's a gay Bangladesh teenager and it talks a lot with that culture. It's dark and hard hitting and it has an illustrated cover on, look, as you can see. The only one it doesn't cover is I've not seen anyone big up this book, but I did really enjoy it, so I would recommend it. I think if you're okay reading hard-hitting books, I would definitely recommend looking up the triggers warnings for this if that's something you need when reading books. I mean, I know a lot of books like have random triggers in it, and even as someone, if you're not personally affected by them, you might not realise that when you go to review a book. I've started doing trigger warnings for my written reviews, and I'm always like worried that I'll forget a trigger, so I usually like write it down when it appears. I mean, I try my best to write accurate trigger warnings for the books I review now. I'm really not sure how to do triggers properly for like video content, so that's my wrap up for the ContemporaryAthon. I ended up reading 5 books for 7 challenges. Technically I managed all of them with 2 books for my actual TBR. One of those books was kind of like a major treat because I listened to only an hour of it doing the ContemporaryAthon, but I figured it made me sound better to be reading a non-fiction book by a black author, especially since I never got round to a black author of fiction this ContemporaryAthon. It was my intention. I was going to read a book by a black author that had green on the cover, but I couldn't think any, and I'm probably like, there's probably is loads that I own and I'm just ranking on it. So I'm going to try and make up for it with the rest of the books I read this month, including what I read for my own readathon, which is the Strangerthon. So kind of a good ContemporaryAthon in that I managed all the challenges. I could have read more than I did read, but you know, sometimes things happen. I decided to pay The Sims, and like I could have listened to an audiobook while I was paying The Sims, but I didn't. So I will see you widows next time, where I will actually be reading. Farewell. All the challenges. Someone wants to be in the video. Okay. Oh, he's got his head on my arm. This is gonna be a problem, but it's so cute at the same time.